Hello and welcome back to the Second City podcast with me, Callum.
And me, Daniel Sketchley.
It's another jam-packed and probably quite an emotional episode of the old SCP this week, Dan. We've got quite a lot to get through. Obviously, we had Villa in the Conference League Semi-Final first leg, and then played Brighton on Sunday, and also Birmingham City had a very, very big and dramatic, maybe not as dramatic as they were hoping for on Saturday. In the final day of the championship. But football aside, Dan, how are you? How's your week been?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Good.
You
Yeah,
obviously did
that's
the
about it
half
all.
marathon on Sunday. How did that go?
I did. Yes, thank you. It was really good. I had a great time. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for asking. Yeah, got round, ran the whole thing, the half marathon, thankfully. Which might sound like, oh, well, yeah, obviously, but like you do see people like stopping as you go along.
Mm.
The people who just, need to stop, and so just to finish is really nice. So I've done half marathon distance a couple of times, but I've never done it like in an event sort of thing, like in a race like that. And I came in just under 2 hours. I think it was an hour 57. So really happy with that. And considering like how like I've done it marginally quicker before, but it was so hot on Sunday in Birmingham. Um, so I was really happy with it. And shout out to Luke and James, my cousins as well, who got round in really good times as well. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you. How about you? How have you been, football aside?
Not too bad. Had a quick game of foot golf on Saturday, and it was not very good. But I
Okay.
had a good five-a-side night on Friday. So swings and roundabouts.
Swings and roundabouts, fair enough. So we've had good weeks basically, aside from
The
um
football.
the football. Shall we we're gonna do I think we said we'd do it a little bit differently this week. Normally we go in chronological order, but obviously there's a huge story this week which happened, and that is obviously Villa played first in the Conference League, but Blues is probably where we're gonna start this week if that's all good. But before that we're gonna do what we're wearing. So do you wanna go first or shall I, Cal?
I think we'll guess yours first because I'd actually forgotten this, but I believe this is a shirt that you wore very early on in the days of the SCP. So,
Yeah, so it
um,
is a repeat, but it's only because I messed up. I forgot to get a new shirt sorted for this week. So it's like I'll wear a really a one we I haven't worn in ages and ages and ages, maybe from one of our early like lower viewed episodes. And I also thought it'd be appropriate to wear black as well. So I've gone for that sort of. So yes, what we saying?
I seem to remember this shirt because am I right in thinking this is the shirt where your old ownership thought it was an actual cursed kit?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think I might have said it in the
Yeah.
first one we did with
I
this.
I think this is the year after we got promoted, so that would have been 2019-20, like away or third or something.
Yeah, bang on. This is 2019-20 away. It's a sort of, I say black. It's kind of,
It's charcoal, isn't it?
yeah, and it's Adidas Boil Sports away shirt with the white stripes, the Adidas three stripes on their shoulders. And it's kind of the template. I don't know if it'll show up for those watching on YouTube, but where the sponsor is, it's sort of like, do you remember the Germany
Yeah.
Italia 90 pattern they used to have on those kits? And then Germany recreated it for the I think it was the 2018 World Cup. They did like a modern version of it, so, which is a great kit. Um, yes, it's quite a nice shirt. This is the Pep Clotet season, yeah. So yeah, after you got promoted, and we're doing okay this year. Like Monk left and Clotet came in as like the temporary permanent head coach or whatever he was. Made some interesting signings. Shay Adams had left, but we made some interesting signings. Like a lot of Spanish players came in, like Fran Villalba, Alvaro Jimenez. But it weirdly just didn't really work out. Never had any consistency with a lot of them. Scott Hogan came in the January, and then we were actually kind of ticking along fairly well, unspectacular but fairly well, and actually went on quite a nice run. And then COVID happened, and the season stopped for 3 months, obviously. And then when it came back, we didn't win a single game after that. So I think we were actually like not a million miles off playoffs when the COVID break happened, and then we ended up not. How many games was it after COVID? Like eight or nine, and we didn't win a single game in that time, and we ended up finishing. I think it was 20th, which nowadays looks really rosy. I'd have loved to have finished 20th this season, but uh, but so yeah, at this point in the season overall, Pep Clotet left with a few games to go. But some bright sparks this season. Djukovic had a really good season. I think he scored. I think it might have been his highest goals return was this season with 15 goals. Obviously, it was the Jude Bellingham season when Jude came through and was an absolute star of this team. We had a great away game at Bristol City where we won 3-1, sorry, and Duke. It was in this kit. Duke scored a brilliant goal in that kit. Um, we had a night game against Middlesbrough. We won 2-1. We were outstanding. Sunjic had just came in as well. It was his first season. Yeah, he had an unbelievable game, and Odin Bailey scored a really late winner. But yeah, on the whole, it was a bit of a disappointment. Kind of went from looking promising to kind of fading into nothing really. And as you say, we only wore this kit a few times because I think we lost the first couple of games in it, and then so our owners at the time were the previous ownership, who are obviously based in China, and apparently they believed that the black color of the kit was bad luck. Apparently, was what they believed or something. So they forbade us from wearing it. So we wore like the previous season's away kit a lot, which was the yellow one, but with the Boyle Sports sponsor on it instead. So that's what the rumor was anyway. So yeah, 1920 away. This one is, yeah. So we'll get on to you.
Yeah. I wore the away kit of this not too long ago. You may notice the checkerboarding down the side. FX
Oh,
Pro.
okay. Oh, okay. That's a big giveaway. If I hadn't noticed the checkerboard thing, I wouldn't have got it, I don't think. Yeah, Nike home shirt, FX Pro. The checkerboard thing, I think we talked about this the other week,
Yeah.
is the Darren Bent season,
Yeah.
which was, which one was it? I got it the other week, didn't I?
There's a slight theme to this kit, Dan.
Slight
So
theme.
what
Oh,
happened?
okay, okay,
What
okay.
happened this
Okay.
year? That
Okay. That'd be 10-11 home, then yeah. Yeah. I can work that out for myself, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, this is the 2010-11 home kit.
Last time
Obviously,
we beat you though. The last time we beat you, you were in that kit.
yeah. Obviously, that horrible Carling Cup quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but we won't talk about that. Yeah, it was so. This was the year after Martin O'Neill left. I won't go into too much because I did talk about this season a couple of weeks ago. Martin O'Neill left because we sold James Milner, and there was a lot of complications with that. Where was he staying? Was he going? And what would we do with the transfer funds from that sale? And ultimately, as Randy Lerner, the owner, wanted to cut back on spending on the club, Martin O'Neill wanted us to push for the Champions League. And so the two of them, their relationship fell apart and he left. We then had Kevin McDonald in for the first couple of games of the season before Gerard Houllier took control. Didn't even do the full season because obviously he was taken ill right at the back end of the season. And Gary McAllister took control of the team for the last few games of the season. We were actually in relegation trouble for quite a while, and in the January we signed Darren Bent for what was then our record transfer fee, about 18 to 20 million pounds. Scored on debut at home to Manchester City, and we won 1-0. Where both clubs had new strikers starting for them. We had Darren Bent, and they had just signed Edin Dzeko, who started up front and had an absolute shocker on his debut, really, if memory serves. But yeah, we were in sort of relegation trouble. We obviously lost the then Carling Cup quarter final to you guys. But Darren Bent's goals kind of guided us away from the drop. And then when Houllier got ill, we ended the season with back-to-back wins against, I think it was Arsenal and Liverpool. And all of a sudden, out with like 3 or 4 games to go, we were just about safe. And then we finished 9th in the last few games. So it was like a real undeserved top half finish, really. But the kits were really, really good. Our night kits, as I said before, across the board were absolutely fantastic, even if the home and the away was the same template, just with slightly different colors or inverted or whatever. But really, really nice kit. Nice little V-neck. And I think we said last week the sponsor, don't think they still exist. I happened to notice yesterday they are currently a sponsor on the McLaren Formula One car. So they are still around. Who would have known?
Still doing pretty well as well. They won. One of London Norris won yesterday as well, didn't
They
they?
did
So,
indeed, yeah.
so I'm sure they'll be very happy. Yeah, that feels like a lifetime ago. Like that season, thinking back on it,
Yeah.
just 2010-11. Obviously, I know what the correlation is and
Yeah.
why you thought it'd be appropriate to wear it this
Yeah.
week, which we'll get onto very shortly. Cool. So yeah, that was what we're wearing. So we're going to move into the games then.
Yeah.
Shall we start with it, Cal? Should we get it underway? Should we get
Yeah. Yes, let's do it.
sure?
So obviously Blues were one of, was it 4 teams that could have gone down from the championship? Are we including Huddersfield?
No, no. I mean, because
because they
so
were
Rotherham were
down.
already gone. Huddersfield, they couldn't. They would have had to have won like 15-0 or something. They were gone. Let's be honest. So it was yeah, it was one from us, Sheffield Wednesday, Plymouth, Blackburn, who had to fill that last spot,
Yeah, and
and
they all won.
we all won. And yeah, it was bizarre. Like, I don't know what odds you would have got on that because I think I said on here last week, and I was don't think I was not the only person saying it. I thought if Blues won, well, that's almost certainly going to do it. Because yeah, so we needed Blackburn to lose. I think it was Sheffield Wednesday to lose and um, Plymouth to lose or to Plymouth not to win any of them, and we'd probably be able to haul it back. I wasn't confident with Sheffield Wednesday. I thought they would beat Sunderland or at least get a draw. I thought Blackburn was probable. I was like Leicester are going to be going for 100 points. Plymouth, I was kind of so on because they're at home, and I knew Hull were still unlike. I didn't think Hull were going to get into the playoffs, so I was like, I don't think they're going to be going hell for leather for it. Um, and yeah, so we all won, and that means Blues are relegated. We'll be in the League One next year for the first time in our lifetime. It's a completely new phenomenon for us. Yeah, I think we were texting uh, when we were at the game, when I was at the game, like in our group. Some of these were dropping me messages, and I think I just described it as like kind of surreal, kind of like hard to process.
Yeah,
Which is yeah, just hard to process. And despite the fact that we've kind of come to terms with it over the last few weeks, and I've said on here, it's not the end of the world. There's upsides to it, and I still stand by all that. It actually happening was a really you just expect something to change. I just expected
yeah,
something to happen, because we were. So we won on the day. We won 1-0, and we're 1-0 up after about I think it was 55 minutes or an hour maybe. And so the rest of the game, everyone's kind of just more focusing on the other games. And I think we've got away with it so many times over the last 10 years or so. With obviously, I talked last week about all the last day survivals we've had. You kind of just expect it to happen at this point at Blues. You think, yeah, we're going to go
yeah,
out of it. We're going to get out
yeah,
of it. And so for it not to happen was, yeah, it was weird. And I don't know if you saw that in the first half of our game, there was another medical emergency. So
yeah,
the game stopped for a few minutes. So of course, first of all, again, I hope everything was okay there. It didn't, don't know any more details. It didn't seem as severe as the one at Rotherham the other week, where obviously unfortunately the Rotherham fan had to be like stretchered out and the game stopped for quite a long time. This was resolved fairly quickly. So I hope everything's okay. But anyway, the point being that relating to the game, that it meant our game was slightly behind everyone else's game, so it meant we finished a few minutes later than everyone else. And so there was a really surreal period at the end of our game where we knew all the other games had ended, and there was that weird. I think it was one my cousin next to me just sort of checked the score for the last time, saw Hull had lost to Plymouth, Blackburn had lost to Blackburn. Sorry, Blackburn had beaten Leicester, I should say, and Sheffield Wednesday had won, and he just went, "No, that's it. That's it. We're still playing. We've got to play for another few minutes,
yeah,
but we could win 10-0 here, and that's it." Really, yeah, really strange. Um, but we can have no complaints. We've been terrible this year, awful. We can blame no one else. We can't blame any of the other teams that didn't do us a favour on the weekend like we thought they would. We're here. We lost because of how poor we've been this season. It's still a huge shock because like we've survived for so many years under bad owners and with bad teams, and uh, of our 13 years in the championship, this season was one of the most optimistic at the start.
yeah,
Really new owners coming in, and I think if you told me at that first game, home game against Leeds, that it would end like this, I'd be like, I just got the contrast because we went. I remember after the first or before the first home game, I was in Hennessy's in Digbeth, and uh, I remember I was wearing I don't know why, but I remember I was wearing the 16-17 home shirt. I don't know why, I just remember I was wearing that shirt. And it was so optimistic, and Tom Brady was there for the game, and we won 1-0, and it was it was fantastic. And then I don't think I've been in there like all season for one reason or another, but I ended up back in there again after the game on Saturday, and I was wearing the same shirt, and we'd just been relegated. I was like, what? Like, how was this? It was just such
yeah,
a like, how has this
yeah,
happened? Um, But as I say, we've only got ourselves to blame. Made a poor decision with the manager in October. Rooney was, not the right man at that time. We got unlucky with Tony Mowbray's situation.
yeah,
I think the recruitment though has wasn't as good as we all thought at the start of the season. We've signed some good players this year. but we've also got an unbalanced squad still. A lot of them are probably on large salaries that they shouldn't be. And we've also signed some really bad players, in my opinion. Like, not many, but there are some really bad players in there. Like when we've had injuries, we've had to have players like Ollie Burke fill in and Emmanuel Ivu. And you really notice that's the teams that get relegated when their players that are coming in are nowhere near the level of some of the other players in the squad.
And I wonder as well, not just in terms of incomings, but obviously the decision to let Kevin Long go in January probably has backfired as well.
100%. I think it's 100%. Kevin, the amount of late goals we gave away this season, we lost, especially sort of the last third of the season. The Millwall away game we lost last minute. QPR we lost away last minute. So teams that were in and around us at the time. Player like Kevin Long there, we 100% would have picked up an extra point or two with him in that squad for the second half of the season. 100%. I know he's not glamorous. I know he's not what the club want to do long term and the style of play for a centre back, but who cares? This year was about staying up. This second half of the season was about staying up. And he would have been ideal. And we've really struggled in that department. And he was yeah, I completely agree. Outgoing is a huge mistake. So it's surreal, hard to process, bit of a shock, even though we've been ready for it for a few weeks. Really, I still thought we'd get out of it just about somehow. But also like football is a passion and it's a hobby and it's something we obviously love and but it's not life and death as well. It's not like
Yeah.
I think to some people to some people it is, and you can tell you probably had it like when Villa got relegated or when you've had really bad times. It really is life and death to some people, and
Yeah.
it's like like just move on. It's like, and I think um the takeover has been a great thing at Blues, and the future is very bright. And obviously they've really talked the talk lately. Uh, so we got to stay positive with all that, and it's obviously it would have been so different if we'd gone down under the last owners in terms of the future and so on. But I don't think the takeover alone can fix a culture of losing and just it doesn't take much for the fans to go back to. I'm not blaming the fans, but it doesn't take much for them to go back to that like mindset of like anger and frustration. And I do it. Obviously, it's not ideal, but maybe going down and having to rebuild is maybe what we need. And remembering how to win again. Look at what Ipswich did. Ipswich went down to League One. They then had back-to-back promotions. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but they're in a far better place now for it.
Even
Um,
even the likes of Sunderland, obviously they got trapped in League One for like 5 seasons or whatever it was, but they're a much better side in the Championship now than if they'd have miraculously stayed up under that Coleman season and
yeah.
Simon Grayson. Like they were a mess all over the board.
Oh yeah.
And so they are a much better team. Obviously, sacking Tony Mowbray has set that project back. But, you know, I even look at us, even though our first season in the Championship was a complete disaster and we were still rubbish, we did have 2 years of learning how to win again.
Yeah. I think it's got to be. It's a shame because obviously we've got a lot of players now on big contracts who are leaving, who are out of contract. Players like Hogan, who's just absolutely disappeared. I don't really know what's going on there. And I think, um, like who else is leaving? Probably Gary Gardner, probably Son Yich. Basically, a lot of players that are leaving on big contracts. And it's a shame that we're now not going to have a championship budget to rebuild that on. So it may set us back in even further because now we've got to rebuild for a League One season, and then if we do get promoted, we've then got to kind of probably recruit again to an extent to make it a competitive championship team. So it slows down in that sense, but I think the Blues needs to become a happy place to go again in terms of results. And maybe a year, maybe 2 years, however long it ends up being in League One, maybe that's what we need. But we've got to embrace it, and we can't be snobby about it either because we're there on merit. We were the third worst team in the championship this year. I think basically every stat would point to that. So it is what it is. Like I don't want to go too much into like the bizarre pitch invasion at the end. It's just bizarre. I think people like I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not against pitch invasions, but it's just bizarre and like just
But that,
didn't really want
some
to
some
stick.
guy did score an absolute worldie
I
from the
saw,
halfway
yeah,
line.
that was good. That was quite funny to be fair. Yeah, it's bizarre, man. There's just like it happened last season as well on the last game where like a load of it was like really young children though, like under 10s started like a pitch invasion. And it was and then then just became like a mass kickabout on the pitch. It was really weird. So it meant we didn't stick around to like see the players off or anything. which normally I'd still be up for, but it wasn't really worth sticking around for. Um, so yeah, it's been a tragic season. Let's be honest, the worst in our lifetime for Blues. But yeah, 6 managers, only 13 wins all season, no league doubles. We can have no complaints.
3 away wins, as we said last
3 away
week.
wins, yeah. But hopefully, I do believe that these people who are there now, they are the right people to turn it around. And we're so massive now. Did you see Tom Brady? It got a mention on the Tom Brady. I didn't watch it, but Netflix did a special last night
Yeah.
called The Roast of Tom Brady. It's not the kind of thing I'd want to watch, but they had a dig at Blues in it and get how we apparently suck, which to be fair we have this season. So yeah, is what it is. We're gonna do hopefully in the next few weeks once Villa's season's finished, we're gonna do more of a sort of full-on season review, I think, aren't we?
Yeah.
A full-on retrospective, similar to the one we did at Christmas for 2023. So I'll save all my full-on season thoughts for that. So just for this Norwich game, weirdly I'd score the Norwich game probably a B because we actually
Yeah.
play like we were the better team. We won 1-0. We did our job on the day, but the damage was already done. And that's my 3-word match review. Damage already done.
Yeah.
But my man of the match would be, for this game, would be Bielik. I really hope he sticks around. I think he's one of the few players. He's had some dips in this season, but lately I think he's pulled his weight. He's been moved around position all season, but he's always shown passion. He's always been a calm head at the back. So he'd be my man of the match. I hope he stays next year. I don't think he will, but
Yeah.
that's
The
part of the
thing the
shame as
thing I'd
well. We're
say
going to
on
lose players that we do.
yeah. The thing with Bielik is
Sorry.
the reason he ended up leaving Derby was because if he wanted to still get picked for Poland, he had to be playing in a minimum of the championship. And so, I mean, he'd probably go back to Derby now that they've got promoted.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
I've got a couple
So
of
yeah, that
stats
was
for you as well, Dan, before we wrap up this part. So
sure.
Birmingham City was sixth, obviously, when you sacked John Eustace for Wayne Rooney in mid-October. Since that appointment, Birmingham City only won 32 points from 35 games. And this is something I noticed when I looked at the final table on Saturday, where while you have not been very good this year and deservedly go down based on everything we've already said, I did think you were a little bit unlucky in some regard, and it's partly because of how shit Rotherham have been this year. But Birmingham City have become only the sixth team in Championship history to be relegated on 50 points or more. Obviously, in the Premier League, you used to say around 40 points to keep you safe, and in the Championship, because there's 4 extra teams, you'd say about 50 points. So I was surprised actually to see you did get to 50 points and did go down. A little bit like how the year you got this season you got relegated, you got arguably what would be enough points to stay up.
Yeah, that's very true because I think the first 10 years ago when we stayed up with the Lee Clark and the Paul Caddis header, I think we had 44 points that season and we stayed up, which is mental. It's yeah. So, but as I say, we can't complain. And like you mentioned Rotherham because I think isn't it when if there's a team that is so far adrift from everyone
Yeah.
else, it means the points tallies kind of get a bit corrupted, sort of.
Yeah, like at the top of the table, Leeds are in the playoffs on 90 points, and they're like the first team ever to get 90 points and not get promoted automatically.
Yeah, it's yeah, and like you say, very similar to our Premier League season because I think we were going down on 40, and I think it was only because we pushed for an extra goal that we conceded and then went down on 39. So yeah, one of those. Unlike you, stayed up on 35. I think it was a few years ago in the Premier League. Um, but yeah, as I say, can only blame ourselves really, and yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back. Who knows when it'll be, but we'll be back eventually, and we'll probably do Wickham away next year.
Yeah.
Uh, we'll probably meet up for a beer if we can sort it, and then our mate lives near Leighton Orient. We'll do that. That'd be good. Yeah, I was looking at some of the teams we'll be playing. It was like Lincoln, like Mansfield, like Wrexham,
Stevenage, Stockport.
Stevenage, Stockport,
Wrexham, though,
Shrewsbury,
you'll have Wrexham next year.
Wrexham. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but we can't, as I say, we can't be snobby about it. We can't behave like we're, above them because we're there on merit. But you haven't had a great week either, have you, Cal? Let's
No,
be honest on the Villa
no,
front.
no. It's been a terrible week. Let's be honest. Thursday night, you know, obviously it should have been one of the greatest nights I've ever had at Villa Park, and it was not. Obviously we knew it was going to be difficult. Obviously, with the likes of Tielemans and Martinez being out. But yeah, the last couple of weeks, it kind of showed in the Chelsea game, and the two games that have followed have really showed that we're the amount of injuries and lack of squad depth, we're just running a little bit out of steam. Some of those players, some of those players have played an insane amount of games just because of the squad depth. Douglas Luiz has not been in good form probably since around the Lille game. But we've got no one to swap him in for. So he's still playing when or John McGinn might need a rest and he's having to keep playing. So, having said that, Thursday night was really disappointing to let 4 goals in, or to go 2-0 down was bad, but to fight back to 2-2 and then all of a sudden lose that and go back to a 2-goal deficit at the end of the game was really, really disappointing. I thought inside the ground, we went 2-0 down and obviously the fans were panicking. The players, or certainly at 1-0, the players weren't playing how we like to play. They panicked and we let another goal in. Almost like the occasion got to them a little bit, or the anxiousness from the stands was maybe feeding into their performances. I was trying to tell people around me, I was like, what the 2010 League Cup semi-final where we beat Blackburn 6-4, we were a goal up in the first leg and 2-0 down inside 10 minutes in the second leg. That game taught me so much about football and 2-legged knockout games in terms of we were 2-0 down in the first leg inside 20 minutes and everyone's panicking. And I was going around going, stay calm. There's loads of time. We will definitely score tonight. Just stay calm and just keep believing. And we did get back to 2-2. We did have a goal disallowed in the first half that would have made it 1-0 for a pull in the box. It's very, very soft. Very, very soft. I don't think the referee had a great game all round again. The European referees they make some bizarre calls, man. Like, you give a foul for a little pull and disallow a goal, and then Leon Bailey gets cleaned out like 20 minutes later and it's not a penalty. So that, like, how can you just put small tug on the shirt on the defender's a foul? But yeah, I was really disappointed. And obviously, Villa fans coming out of the game are really disappointed. But as the days have gone on, I'm getting more confident that we're going to turn it around in Athens or Prius next week. I think Emi Martinez is going to be back. He's probably reliant on Emi Martinez being back. I know Robin Olsen, as we'll come on to, had a good game yesterday. But before that, after the Olympiacos game, his numbers were that he concedes a goal every 38 minutes in an Aston Villa shirt, which is, I know he's the number 2, but it's not good enough. The amount of games he's played for us where we've let 4 goals in, or 3 or 4 goals in, is quite high. And it's like what I said on the podcast last week, or it might even have been the week before. While he can have a good game, the defense really, really struggle when he plays, because he's not Emi Martinez. And I think the Brighton game probably showed that. There was more than just that, but he can have a good game, but the defense aren't comfortable playing with him. And that is just the way it is. But Olympiacos was celebrating that game. Obviously, it was one of the great European nights for them to go to one of the favourites, if not the favourite left in the competition, who are doing absolutely insanely well in the Premier League this year, and to kind of roll them over in their own place, is fantastic. But the way they were celebrating was as if the game was already done. The scoreline says 4-2, but we're actually 2-0 down, at half time.
Yeah.
If you were 2-0 down at half time in a 90-minute game, you wouldn't be going into the change. You would go, yeah, come on. So I just think that the other way around, we would not have celebrated the way they have. I ain't got a problem with, I'm not going to be the celebration police here, because I understand it was an absolutely incredible night for them. But I truly believe that we can turn it around in the next leg. And, Emi Martinez, as Emi Martinez would say, I'm a believer. I think we can do it. We will need to beat 10 out of 10. But a little bit like the Lille game, the second leg, if we get the first goal inside the opening 20 minutes, who knows? And Olympiacos' games in the Conference League knockout rounds have been weird. So when they played Maccabi Tel Aviv, I think they were at home in the first leg and lost 4-1 at home, and then won the reverse fixture 6-1 to go through. And then against Fenerbahce, the first game was 4-3, and then they won 1-0 in the second leg and went through on penalties. So if anything, it shows that we are more than capable. If Maccabi Tel Aviv can go there and win 4-1, we are more than capable of going there and winning 4-1 and going through. So it could be another crazy game. And it was a crazy game on Thursday. But we need to get a handle on Daniel Podence because he's a very, very good player. And it's weird that someone who was pretty good at Wolves is now been shipped out to Olympiacos. Whether it's wage related to do with Wolves as FFP, who knows? And also the guy that was playing up front who scored a hat trick, he ain't no mug either. Um, so yeah, I do believe we can do it. As kind of previewed it already. But my 3-word match review for this game for the 4-2 will be keep the faith. I can only grade it a D. Man of the match, very hard to pick one. I'll give it to Moussa Diaby because he did get a goal and an assist. I don't know what it is though. He just he can get a goal and an assist and yet still look like he's lacking some confidence. I can't quite put my finger on it at the moment. What it is that's just not really clicking with him at the moment, because to get a goal and an assist to get it back to 2-2, and then maybe we concede, and all of a sudden he's maybe panicking, or he doesn't take a shot when he's choosing to. In the first half, he passed the ball when he really should have lined up a shot, and it was just one of those that a player who is confident and in form has that shot, regardless of whether it will go in or not. So he did play well, so hopefully, we can get him going again. I'll go straight into the Brighton game as well. We were rubbish. It's as simple as that. We weren't very good. We looked very, very tired, very, very leggy. We lost Morgan Rogers very early on with another injury off the ball, and it meant we our lack of options. We bought Matty Cash on, who was having to play in this role of this hybrid midfield winger role, where he had one good game there this season against Burnley and it hasn't really worked, but he's just sort of playing there out of necessity. We didn't really create very much. I think it's the first time since 2016. It's our lowest shot tally in the Premier League since 2016 in a 90-minute game, which it says a lot. We didn't really create or test Verbruggen very much, and it really looked like the game was going to peter out to a 0-0 or a 1-0. There was so much lack of quality. Brighton had a goal disallowed for offside. We had a goal disallowed for offside in the second half, and then we've given away a bit of a soft penalty with about 10 minutes to go. It's soft, but it's one of those, it ain't getting overturned. It is a mistake from Ezri Konsa, and annoyingly, the penalty is saved by Robin Olsen, but the rebound is scored. I don't know. My personal opinion, rebounds shouldn't really count because in a penalty shootout, you can't. And if the keeper saves it, it's going straight back to the striker for a tap in.
Yeah, I agree.
I just, since we got promoted, we've had it. I think that's at least the third time it's happened. It happened against Spurs in 2020. It happened against Arsenal in 2021, and it's happened here now. It's but it is what it is. I thought Simon Adingra caused us a lot of problems. He was easily the best player on the park. But yeah, not a good day. So yeah, in terms of a grade, I'll also grade it a D. Maybe it could have been it probably could be lower, but I'll grade it a D. Just with circumstances going into it. Man of the match will go to Robin Olsen. So I think last week after I gave him man of the match against Chelsea, he's got back to back of them. So, but sometimes it's never good when your goalkeeper's getting man of the match because it means that you're not really doing anything else. So yeah, not a good week for us. But the next week could be much better. It could be much worse as well, but we're going to go positive. I am feeling positive for Thursday. So, but yeah, bad week. Let's move on.
Very true. Yeah, we've had a bad week all round in the football sense for both of us. Just going back to your point about penalties, though, I do completely agree. I think penalties are just too overpowered these days. Rebounds. It's I saw someone debate for a different day, but I saw someone say maybe who it's the player that gets fouled should be the one that takes the penalty. I don't know. Yeah. Discussion for another day, maybe, but yeah, I completely agree with the rebounds rule.
I think we spoke about it in the Lille game. Penalties are so geared to the attacker to score,
Yeah.
And they're limiting now what a goalkeeper can do to put the player off. Like
Yeah.
the way that they really are rigorous on 1 foot on the line, and like you can't be like trying to play the mind games. Like ultimately, especially if you play a penalty shootout, like you need someone to miss, so you need to take keep some of the jeopardy in there.
Cool. Shall we get into the housekeeping then? Is there much on your end, Cal, on the Villa front?
No, other than the club are doing a free screening for the second leg, but I think the tickets are all sold out in the terrace view and the lower grounds. But they might open up another area, so maybe just keep a look.
That's a cool idea anyway. We did something similar on one of our last day survivals. Cool. On the Blues front, we got a major thing. The main thing outside of the game, obviously, was that Blues had the nerve to do the end of season awards last night as well. So, the day after we got relegated. But people saying, "Oh, they shouldn't do it," this and that. It's not just about the men's team, though, is it? There's like they have awards for like the women's teams and the youth teams and so on. So it's still worth doing for that reason. But yeah, they did the awards at the ICC last night in town. And Jay Stansfield absolutely swept the board. He won every major award. So player of the season, fans player of the season, young player of the season, goal of the season for his goal against Plymouth. He literally won everything. I think it was every major award going. Must have been a bit of a somber occasion, but congratulations to him anyway. I wondered if they'd do a manager of the season award at Blues. Because if they had 5 nominees, we'd still have one miss out on a nomination, which I find pretty remarkable. Um, and ironically, probably would have been John Eustace, the man
Yeah,
who obviously
relegated
he
you.
obviously then went to Blackburn, and then his team winning on the last day contributed to sending us down, which is interesting. But yeah, that was the main thing at Blues on Sunday after the game. And there's been no real announcement yet on what's going on now for next season, where this leads to now, and the whole Tony Mowbray situation, and what happens to Rowett now, and so on. But obviously, I don't really have much I can say about that. Mowbray's health is still kind of the priority, and so on. So we'll just see what happens in the next couple of weeks of the off season, really. And I'm sure when the time's right, we'll find out more information. But we're going to take a quick detour away from Blues and Villa. Obviously, this is the Second City podcast, and we do have a lot of West Brom fans in the Second City, of course. So they're in the playoffs. So what we may do over the next couple of weeks, obviously Blues aren't going to be playing, and whilst we'll still cover news and so on, we may just have a quick look at how Baggies get on in the playoffs as well. So they finished fifth this year under Carlos Corberán, and they're going to be playing Southampton in the playoff semi-finals, and then if they are successful, they'll then play Leeds or Norwich in the final.
Yeah,
So
obviously with Norwich losing on the final day and West Brom winning on the final day, they gained a position, so they're not playing
yeah,
Leeds anymore in the semi-final.
yeah, I'm sure Leeds have got to be most people's favourites. I mean, I think Southampton look really good as well, but it's one with Baggies, isn't it? They kind of find a way, even when they're not great, they find a way to sneak into these things. But they've been hugely improved this year under Carlos Corberán. This is their third year in a row in the Championship, and it's been a long time since they had even 3 seasons in a row in the Championship. But all the Baggies fans you speak to, they really rate Corberán and the job he's done there. I'd imagine after someone like Steve Bruce, he probably does feel like a Guardiola type in there.
Yeah, and obviously
After how bad
Valerian
Bruce's time was.
Ismail didn't work either, did
Oh,
he?
of course, yeah. Gosh, yeah, I forgot about him completely. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so we'll keep tabs on that for next week. So the playoffs are always exciting in the Championship. And then a
Although,
quick word
although it's
on
arguably, talking as a Premier League fan here, it's arguably the dullest playoff teams you could
well,
ever have listed from this season.
true, and I also feel obviously we're not going to be in the Championship next year now, but it's also you kind of keep an eye on teams that might be coming down from the Premier League, and it's like Burnley, United,
And
Nottingham Forest,
Luton.
or Luton.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you were all here recently. Maybe points to a wider issue about the disparity between the Premier League and the Championship these days, that the same teams just keep yo-yoing up and down. But yeah, anyway, we'll keep tabs on Baggies for next week. And also another team local, Solihull Moors had a huge game on Sunday at Wembley. They were in the National League playoff final. So Solihull Moors were only founded. I actually looked it up. They were founded on my 10th birthday. They were founded in 2007, and they were in the playoff final yesterday against Bromley with the chance to get into League Two, so to become a football league club for the very first time. And they're actually very unlucky. They lost the game on penalties, and that was despite going 1-0 down, then pulling it back to 1-1, then 2-1 down, pulled it back to 2-2, and then got knocked out on penalties. So really unfortunate, but what a story that'd be. Like a club founded like 16 years ago could of being a division below Blues. Like, and
Yeah.
we and they're only 2 divisions below us as it is, and we could have been playing them in the EFL Trophy or something next season,
Yeah.
the Bristol Street Motors Trophy. So yeah, huge shame for them. Would have been pretty great to have seen another Midlands club, a very local club, into the football league. But we wish them well for next season. And yeah, and keep tabs if they're able to go one step further next year.
Absolutely. So games next week. I think it will be a double game week. Normally,
Yes. Well,
we record on a Monday, and we're the Monday kickoff. So
yeah, I think it'll be a double. Yeah, we'll probably do it afterwards, won't we? It'll be a
yeah.
double game week. Yeah.
So obviously, I've kind of spoken about the Olympiacos game already. We've got to overturn a 2-goal deficit. Um, It'd be interesting to see the team that goes out. Obviously, it'll be very dependent on who's fit, but it'd be interesting to see how, assuming Martinez is back and assuming Tielemans is back, which that one I think really will be touch and go, and hopefully Morgan Rogers is fit. I'll be interested to see how he lines up, especially defensively, whether he'll go for the Konza Carlos, Torres, Luka Dean back four, which I really felt like he was going to do in the first leg and didn't. And I think it was quite costly. I did say last week that we should have gone more defensive in that game. But so it'd be interesting to see whether he goes with slightly more attacking. I mean, Alex Moreno could play and then put Konza at right back, and that gives us the slightly more attacking fullback. The next goal in this tie is absolutely pivotal. I think if Olympiacos get it, I think my belief that we'll go through will start to disappear. But if we get even if that goal comes in minute 81, we have still got a chance. So keep the faith. It'll be close, and I am excited for it. It's the 8 o'clock kickoff, which is weird for an away game in Europe to be the 8 o'clock kickoff now.
Hmm.
So we have that, and then on Monday we've got Liverpool in the Premier League. Obviously, because we lost to Brighton, we missed the opportunity to secure Champions League football for next year. While it is still within our own hands, I think we're going to do it anyway, just because it'll be reliant on Spurs beating
We're gonna
Manchester
do it
City.
anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, have you seen that meme?
Yeah.
We're gonna do it anyway. Barry from EastEnders.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, carry on.
I think I just focus on the next game, go all out against Olympiacos because, the European final would be something spectacular. So, Liverpool game, it's hard to say. It depends, if we go to it could go to penalties against Olympiacos, by which point, we're going to be pretty shattered already against Liverpool. But Spurs will have already played, and so maybe we'll see. It's obviously Klopp's last away game, which is why it's the Monday night kickoff, so that Carragher and Sky can dedicate a whole hour and a
Yeah,
half of a Klopp loving.
yeah. Even though they've got nothing to play for, really, Liverpool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um. Yeah. What was the score when you played them earlier in the season at
We
Anfield?
lost 3-0. It was like the third or fourth game of the season.
Ah, right. Okay. Fair enough.
Um,
Interesting.
so it's hard to say. I'd take a draw. A draw would be more than enough for us. And it would be a great result. It will probably depend on what happens on Thursday night, what the atmosphere is going to be like. If we do turn it around against Olympiacos, the atmosphere is going to be incredible on Monday night. And obviously it's the last home game of the season, so they will do the lap around the pitch at the end. So do try and stay, but obviously it will be like a 10 o'clock finish. So, yeah, that's about it really.
Cool. Shall we wrap it up there for this week then?
Yeah, let's call it a day there, Dan. Thank you, everyone who's
Cool.
been listening and watching over the last couple of weeks, and all your lovely comments. We have seen all of them, and we try and reply to as many of them as possible. Hit the bell on YouTube so that sometimes, especially now that we're playing on Monday night. Who knows what day we're going to be releasing the pods? So, if you hit the bell, you get notified when the new episodes are out. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is you're listening or watching on.
Yeah, and you can follow us on our social media with the handle Second City Pod. That's 2ND City Pod. Look forward to next week where we'll obviously break down Villa's fortunes in them 2 games. And with Blues not playing as well as looking at the West Brom in the playoffs, I might have a little chat about what maybe should happen with some of the players that are now out of contract to Blues and should we keep or release. I might do a little thinking on that
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So look forward to that. And until next week, Cal, keep right on.
Yeah, good. Well, I was gonna say good luck, Dan, but you're not playing.
No,
So
hopefully we're just in a happier mood next week. Let's just
yeah.
say, like, been one of those. But
yeah, I'll catch you next week, Dan, and up the Villa.
shit on the Villa. See you then.